Hey everyone, I'm back with a new video on different caching strategies. This time we'll be implementing those in our Python program. So today we'll see how the write-through, read-through, and query offloading caching strategy can be implemented in Python. So stay tuned. So this is the same demo application that we have seen in the first lecture. If you have missed the introduction to cache for Redis, please check out using the I button at the top. And if you have missed the different caching strategies introduction video, please check this out using the I button. So let's jump into the code. So this time I have created two new classes. One is service user service and the other is user model. So with user model, I'm trying to map the Python items or the entity properties to our user's collection that is there in the MongoDB cluster. For user service, so this class is basically responsible for updating, deleting, and getting records from our users collection of ecom database. So within this, we have implemented the different caching strategies, which we'll see in a moment. Now, if we look at our cache service, so this is the same file we have seen, but I have added a new method, a function setQueryItems. So this we'll be using for query offloading. Since you guys might not be aware of the query offloading strategy, so in this strategy, we basically pass the query, the whole query as a key to the cache so that if in case the same query is executed by the application, then we'll return it from the cache itself. So now let's look at the user service class. So for read-through caching strategy, we already know that we first check if the item is present in the cache or not. If it is not present, then we go to the database and query it and update the cache as per the return data item. So this is what we have tried to implement here. So here we first check if the ID is present and if the ID is there in the cache or not. If it is there, we simply return the requested ID from the cache itself. If the data is not there in the cache, we pull the data from the database and put it in the cache, and then we return it back to the caller. Now let's look at the write-through caching strategy. So in write behind, we basically update the database after adding the record to the cache. So here we are putting the item into the cache, and once the cache is updated or added, the record is added, we'll move to the database and insert the record. So this is a write behind. Behind means we are writing behind the cache. Now when we say write through, in that case we first add the record to the database and post that we update the cache for that record. So that is what I have done here. So first I have added the record to the database and then we are adding the data to the cache. So next time when the application requests that data, it will be already updated and present in the cache. Now for query offloading, I've already told you that in query offloading, we basically try to cache the more often queries that the application is using. So we pass the query into the cache service and we first check like if the query is there in cache or not. If it is there, then we'll return the data back from the cache itself. But if it is not there, then we first add the query as well as the users that we'll get from the database, and then we return the data back to the calling function. For user update, we are still like seeing the write through. So we first update the cache and then we update the database. And for deleting a user, we first remove the user from cache itself and then we delete the user from the database. So let's see all these things in action. So I'll be starting the application in debugger mode so that we can see all these executions one after another. We have successfully added all the items using our user service to the cache as well as in the database. We can look at the database also. FromDB is our database, and here we can see we have 20 documents. We only inserted 20 records, so that's why we have 20 documents here. We are using Faker library for taking the data. Now let's move forward. This time we'll be deleting the record. We have successfully deleted the record, and here we can see that we are getting the data and then we are instantiating the collection username and remove the data from the database. Now let's try to fetch a record. So this time we'll go into the get users method of user service to see where exactly we are getting the data from. So now we are in the get users. We'll check since we have already passed the ID. Now we'll see whether the data is present in the cache or not. So fetching data from cache. Let's see. So we got the data back from the cache itself. So we have successfully retrieved the data from cache, and now we'll return it back to the calling function. And we'll check whether the return data is same as we already had in the items list or not. Since both are same, returned item is same. We log that message. Now let's try to pull everything. We have queried all the data from the user service. Now we will delete everything from the database as well as from the cache. So we have successfully removed from the database as well as we have successfully removed from the cache, as we can see in these logs. Remove item return 1. Are you ready to dive in a world of endless possibilities? If yes, subscribe now and be a part of our community, where every video is a step closer to unlocking new insights and adventures. Don't miss out the excitement, hit that subscribe button and let's explore together.